Hello, and welcome to another episode of College Sucks. I'm your host, Davia Samantha Davidson, a student affairs professional who has been in college all her life. Okay, so today we'll be talking about a special set of students. All students are special, but these students have a greater responsibility than others. Today, I'll be talking about the student athlete. Now, the idea of student athlete is not new. It's been around for a very long time. And in recent times, we can think about famous student athletes, especially when we look at the NBA, because how it works is you can't go pro, or you were unable to go pro unless you went to college. You had to be discovered from a university. So we know about Angel Reese, who is also a podcaster, who went to the University of Maryland and LSU. She's very famous. Steph Curry, who attended Davidson and who graduated recently, many years after going pro, because I guess his education and that degree was very important to him. In Jamaica, we have Asafa Powell and Shelley Fraser-Pryce, both attended UTEC, and Hansel Parchment, gold medal Olympian, who attended my alma mater, the University of the West Indies. We can also think about footballers. Yes, your favorite Premier League team, don't come for me. Rodrigo Hernandez, player for Man City and Spain, who just won the Ballon d'Or. So I guess he's really good. Don't argue with me, Laurel said so. Even though he did not have to go to university in order to play football, he decided that it was very important for him to get his degree, and he holds an undergraduate degree in business administration, all while he was playing for Villarreal's youth team. So he is someone who decided that education and a degree was very important to him. Now, student athletes fall into two categories. There are students who were identified from high school for their talents and sponsored by universities to go and use their talents in order to pay their tuition. And then there are students who go to traditional colleges but still want to use their talent, their God-given talents, to promote themselves. And they just have a passion for playing. So, they are in school full time, but they also join teams. So if you fall in any of these categories, this episode in particular is for you. Because whereas student athletes are students, they have the same concerns, the same requirements as other students. But I promise you, a student athlete and a regular athlete are not the same. So what are some of the challenges that student athletes have? Well, first and foremost, they're working both their mind and body on the field of play and their mind in class. So they have to be thinking about, if you're doing football, you have to remember plays. If you're doing netball, you have to remember plays. If you're doing athletics, you have to remember all the notes that the coach has given to you. That's one. Two, you have greater obligations in terms of training. So on your time, you have greater obligations. So when school is over or even before school starts, you may have a training session, and then you have matches that you have to go to. There are places that you have to travel to, probably far distances from where you actually have school, to go to matches. So your time is taken up. You'll probably miss a day or two out of a school week, or have to give up your weekends for both training and practice. The next thing is that you are more prone to feelings in addition to the feelings that you would have as a student. So not only do you have to worry about your academic work and the results of that, you also have to worry about how your team is doing and how your performance is on the field. So you are under pressure twice. You are under pressure for your goals for yourself in your academic program, and then you are under pressure from your coach for your goals on the field of play. So those are some of the things that you have to go through. So today I wanted to talk about some of the things that you could do to help make college a little bit easier for you, because college sucks on its own, but it definitely sucks a little bit more when you're a student athlete. And it's really going to suck when your team is not winning. When your team is winning, it feels great. It's amazing. But that can't be the case for every single student athlete in every part of the world, because somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. So it's the highs and the low of athletics coupled with the highs and low of academic work. So here are some tips I have to help you make it less sucky for you as a college student. So the first thing, I want you to be realistic. I want you to understand that you and your classmates are not the same. You're in the same program, you might be around the same age, but you are not living the same lives. And no two person lives the same life, but you definitely have a separate life. You have two jobs. You have the job of being a student and the job of being an athlete. So it's very important to know that whereas your classmates can be living their best college life, especially in first year, where I don't want to say this if some people didn't know and then they slack off, but oftentimes in 4-year degree programs or even 3-year degree programs, your first year does not count towards the class of degree that you earn. So in first year, people just want to pass the requirements. Some people are very serious because they don't have any money and they need to get really, really good grades to get a scholarship. Or personally, they just enjoy getting really good grades. But I find oftentimes that first year students just want to find out about the place. They want to learn the lay of the land. And they're not so caught up in getting really high grades. And although earning high grades is a habit, which is something I always say to them, like doing well academically is a habit that you develop, you form, and you work at. Still, they want to learn the ropes and they have the time and energy to do that. But as a student athlete, you do not have that. You cannot take anything for granted. You have to be on the ball. You and them are not the same. You can't idle before class, after class, and during class. You can't be brushing off things because, let's be clear, even though athletics might be what you're there for if you're on a scholarship or the thing that you're most interested in, you are still a student. And so you can't afford to be playing around. In some universities, they have a requirement as to a grade that you have to keep in order to maintain your scholarship, because I promise you, as good as you are, there are always athletes that are going to be better. You may not have met them yet, but coach will find them next year and your slot might be gone. So when I talk about pressure that you're under pressure. So from the get-go, you have to be serious and you can't be living in Delulu land. Delulu is not the Trululu when it comes to being a student athlete. You have to ensure that you understand that you and your classmates are not the same and you can't afford to be playing around. Secondly, you have to ensure that you're forming good relationships. Now, these relationships have to be with your classmates and they have to be with your instructors, your lecturers, and your coach. You need good relationships all around. So let's start with the classmates. I often find that students will say, hey, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to just earn my degree and to play my sport and to go about my business. That's very good and well. Okay, that's fine. But you can't afford that. You need to form alliances because this is a game of survival. And the fittest is the one that wins. You know this. You're an athlete. So you have to ensure that you pay attention. Who is the person in class who takes the best notes? Who is the person who seems on the ball? And you need to align yourself with them. Now, I'm not saying have a fake relationship, but try to get them to understand, hi, I'm a student athlete. I have to go to matches sometimes, or I might be out for injury. And I really would like if you can, the days I'm not at school, share your notes with me. Try to establish and develop that relationship. And because you're going to rely on people to survive being a student athlete. The next thing, you need to form relationships with your tutors and you need to form relationships with your lecturers. With your tutors is very important because I know at the University of the West Indies and I think at UTech or most other universities, whereas lectures are not mandatory, you have to attend a certain number of tutorials. So you need to ensure that your tutor knows that you have responsibilities and you may be missing classes. If you are in a full-on lecture program, I know for the teacher education program, there is a non-compliance policy where you can't miss more than 10% of your classes. And in a 13-week spell, that could be 3 hours. If it's a 45-hour course, then that could be 4.5 hours. So you have to let your lecturer know, even though the college or the university may advise that these are student athletes. You want to be respectful and you want to let them know when you do in fact have matches and that you will be absent. You also want to try to clear up from very early any course obligations you might have. So if it's when is a test date, if you can be advised of that very early, so you can tell them we have matches this day. So, in course tests, if they could be scheduled around you, because sports is a big part of many universities, so there might be some concessions. But let's be clear, lecturers and tutors are assessed on the performance, the academic performance of students. And as much as they might like football, basketball, track, swimming, whatever sport you're engaged in, at the end of the day, they want to make sure that a great percentage of their students are passing. And you have to do the work in order to pass. So maintaining relationships there is important. You also need to maintain a good relationship with your coach so that all of your efforts continue to be towards a goal. You don't want to be the best player, but your attitude is so bad that the coach does not want to play you. In everything, you want to be teachable. As a student, as a group member, as an athlete, it's very important that the relationship you have with your coach is good. Because if it's not good, then all of your efforts might be in vain. You might be as good as gold, but you are golding it out on the bench. So relationships are very important. The next thing that I want to say to you is you want to ensure that you're attending the classes for which you are available. So you will have match obligations, let's say Tuesdays and Thursdays. It doesn't matter how tired you are or how hurt or sore you feel. It is better for you to be hurt and sore in class than to be sleeping all day. You can't miss the classes for which you have no reason to be absent. You have to make sure that you're there because that is a big part of forming relationships and also gathering your own notes and learning about what is happening in the class. Remember, you are a student athlete, but at the front of that is a student. This is not like America where there is a possibility that if you are great, you are going to be going pro and making millions. And that cannot work for everybody. So academics is a big deal. If you've made the commitment that you're going to go to college to earn a degree, you have to focus on that. And a big part of that is being present in class. It is better for you to go to class and fall asleep and pick up something by way of osmosis than to be sculling it. You don't want to have a bad relationship with your lecturer. The next thing is the importance of taking care of your body, and this is twofold. Now, I'm not a medical professional, and I would not profess to be, but one of the things I know that can really, really help you succeed is sleep. As funny as that sounds, studies have shown that sleep is important for the way you function overall in life. And as someone with a sleep disorder, I can personally attest that when your sleep is not good, it feels as if you are unable to focus, you're not able to be happy, you're not able to do well. So managing your sleep is something that you have to do. You have to ensure that you're going to bed. So when practice is over, if you're extremely tired, it's best to have a nap and then wake up and do whatever work you have to do. But sleeping is very important. You can't be on the hall with your friends laughing and making jokes. You need some earplugs and you need to go have a nap. You need to rest because your body needs to recover, your brain needs to recover, and you need to be refreshed for the days that you have to play and the days that you have to go to class. Which brings me to the next thing that's super important, and that's nutrition. Now, some of you may be lucky to be attending universities and colleges with full meal plans. That means you never have to cook. They have the responsibility of ensuring that your diet is catered to and that any preferences you have, they are met. But in some other colleges that are not primarily sports colleges or just don't have the resources, feeding yourself for the most part falls on you. So I suggest that you try as best as possible to avoid all those nice sweet treats that are easily available and good to reach for when you're tired. And you invest some time and energy into making nutritious meals, something with protein, some high fiber carbs, and just things that you know are good for you. So vegetables, I'm not a nutritionist. You can look it up, but you need to be eating the best you can. So don't be bothered with all of these snacks and fried and processed foods. They really can't help you. And in the long run, they can actually add to your problems. It's not impossible to develop high blood pressure and blood sugar issues from a poor diet, whether you're an athlete, yes or no. Your muscle isn't going to recover if you're not eating the right foods. And so if you're a student athlete, you need to petition your school to help you with your nutrition as best as possible. The next thing that you should consider is talking to your doctor, letting him or her know, that you are a student athlete, and if they can suggest supplements that you can take that match whatever health concerns you have, because some persons have low iron, like myself. We're high functioning, low iron people, and a lot of that is genetic, but there are supplements that you can take. Not all iron you will be able to absorb. So you need to speak to your doctor to see which one can help you, which one is best for you. And the importance of fruits cannot be stressed, especially banana, which is rich in potassium, makes you feel full and is really, really good for your muscle recovery and just your overall well-being. So try to fill up on foods that are nutritious and that will add value to your body. You can't afford to be reckless with your body as a student athlete, which brings me to another thing. Don't be idle. If you see somebody climbing up on an unfinished building or doing flips, or if you're a runner and you're out there, you're not supposed to be playing football, because as a runner, I don't know which word to use here, but as a track athlete, there we go. As a track star, you can't be playing as a part-time football star because the injuries are different. Okay? As a track star, you're more likely to have muscle strain. You're not going to be involved in a collision. Now, I've seen students who have been playing around and injured themselves. Simple things like running away from their friends. You buck your toe and you're a netballer. You can't put on your sneakers. Attempting a handstand and you're not a gymnast, and you've hurt your wrist and you can't play because you're a netballer. You can't afford to be reckless with your body. You have to pay attention to your responsibilities where that is concerned and keep that at the fore of your mind. You can't go and be picking up an idle football match because your team depends on you. You can't afford to be reckless with your body at all. You have to treat it like the temple it is, especially in this situation, because this is a choice you have made. Nobody forced you to be a student athlete. So now that you have made this commitment, you have to stick to it, and you can't afford to be reckless with your body. All right, the next thing is that you have to prioritize you, meaning that there will be times where you feel a little niggle, but you have a big match. I think you owe it to yourself to put your ego aside and to stop believing that without you, the team cannot win. That is, it's good to feel that way, but that may not be the reality. In Euro 2024, Rodri, I love him. I think he's the best midfielder ever. He had an injury, and you could see the disappointment in his face and the tears in the eyes of the fans when he had to come off the field. But guess what? His presence was probably making it more difficult for them to operate properly. He was subbed out, and Spain still won. I say that to say, even when you are the greatest, there are times when you have to prioritize your body because you don't want to end up with a bigger injury than that little niggle. and then you're out for a longer time. You may actually be doing your team more harm than good if you're not functioning at 100%. So you have to be honest and say, hey, I cannot manage this. This savior complex is something that we need to park sometimes, and we need to believe that the team should be at the level to cope. And even if they can't cope, when it comes down to if it's the team or me, you have to be the person. You have to choose you. So don't be out there saying, I am him, I am Himothy, I am she, I are the one, in the words of Bounty Killer. You have to put those things aside. And when you feel a slight needle or an injury, you need to pause it. And you need to say to your coach and be honest that, hey, I'm going to have to sit this one out. Sometimes if you are injured greater than you need to be, not only does your team suffer, but your schoolwork suffers. Which brings me to the biggest point. You have to accept that as a student athlete, there is the possibility that you are going to be injured. Like I said, the Lulu is not the true Lulu. You have to have that in the back of your mind. No, you're not going to manifest it, but you are going to be mindful that when you take on this, that there is the risk that you could have a serious injury. I've been around students a very long time, and I have seen a wide range of sports-related injuries, from broken legs, broken arms, to broken collarbones. These are serious injuries, and depending on when you get them in the season, they have the potential to impact your academic performance. Matches are being played now in November, and exams begin December 2. I'm sorry if this is closing up your throat. I don't mean to make you anxious, and next week we'll be talking about preparing yourself for exams, so don't worry too much. But can you imagine having a serious injury at this time of the year, and then you have to write your exams? Again, lecturers are assessed on your academic performance, and so are you. So it's very important that you try to stay out of harm's way. If you're playing a game and somebody is being overly aggressive, it might be okay for you to run from them or to stay on the other side of the pitch, or to even ask to be subbed out because you have your exams, and depending on where you are in your academic program, so let's say you're third year and next semester you're expected to be on teaching practice in our academic system. You can't afford to have a broken hand, especially if you are a primary student. You are expected to write on the board, no matter how much technology you're using. If you're an EC student, you're going to have to be holding students' hands to help them to form their letters. So if your hand is broken, your right hand, your primary hand, your dominant hand, how is that going to work? No, as much as we can predict injuries, just like how we can't predict accidents, you owe it to yourself. Whereas we cannot prevent injuries, as much as we cannot prevent accidents, you owe it to yourself to be very careful and to even say a special prayer over yourself. If you are a faith-based individual, or if you believe in the universe, ask the universe to manifest good health on you and a healthy performance, injury-free at the end of the day. Because if you have an injury, it can have a huge impact on what happens to you. Okay, the next point I want to make is that as an athlete, you tend to be very popular, right? And if you are male, the ladies are going to love you. But guess what? You don't have time for that. You don't have time for the drama. You don't have time for investing that much in a serious relationship. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be single, but you have to be honest with whoever is interested in you that, look, right now, sports and school, they are my priority. Or it might be best to date somebody who understands your situation, another student athlete. It makes it a little bit easier. But I know oftentimes athletes get caught up in a lot of relationship drama because they're popular and people like them. And so even relationships that they started out with before they were winning, they tend to dissolve. And you have to be mindful of that. As much as we act as if we're tough, intimate relationships can affect how we perform in our academic program. It's just the truth of the matter. And so you want to be able to think about it, balance it, and prioritize. Is this something I can manage right now? It's okay to tell someone that, look, I like you, you like me, but could we pick this up over the summer? I'm not playing any sports then. because it's not good to have a broken heart or to be playing on a broken heart. It's bad enough to be playing on a broken hand. But I tell you, that broken heart might be a little bit more difficult than that broken hand. So these are just some tips I have here, because I know you're busy and you don't have time to be listening to a long podcast, even though it has tips that can really, really help you. There's one more point. Sorry, I can't leave without talking about you managing your time. You have to be top tier with your time management. You have to be on top of that. You have to ensure that you are prioritizing study time, prioritizing going over notes, prioritizing your group work. Once group work is issued, you have to try to have a dominant position in the management of it, because you don't have as much time as your classmates to put it off until the last minute. So whatever group you are, you have to say, look, remember, I'm a student athlete. I have matches I have to go to. These are the days that I'm available during the day, during class hours, when I have a free hour. This is when I have to contribute. And you need to speak to your lecturer so that they are on board with helping your classmates to understand how this group activity will have to take place, because you're a student athlete. The other thing is, you, like I said before, but I'm going to reiterate, you have to start doing your coursework earlier than others. Whenever you have free time, you have to jump on them, because oftentimes there are some courses that are course assignments only, and you have the potential to get better grades in these courses. Well, some people do. Some people test better, and so exam conditions work for them. Once you know your study style, you will know what to do. But in-course assignments are grades that are just on the board, and you should just try to win as much of them as possible. So go to your lecturer or your tutor and seek clarity from very early about any group assignments and try to work on them. You need to be listening to course notes on the drive to the game and listening to course notes on the drive from the game if you are taking your academic work very seriously. So if you can record in your notes, record your voice notes of your notes. If you can record voice notes of your notes, that's very crucial, and that can really, really help. You can listen to them while you go to bed. But you don't have time during the week to be playing around. You have to be very serious and very professional. So if a lecturer isn't going to be at school, that's not your free time. Yes, you could use it to catch up on your rest by having a nap. I'm always going to be pro naps. But if you find yourself with gaps in your day, you need to use that to work on your assignments and to catch up on notes and content for which you might not be familiar. Okay, so that's it. That's episode 3 of College Sucks, where I was talking to student athletes, but I'm sure other students can gain some benefit from this. And I'm going to sign off right here. Please let me know in the comments if this was helpful to you, or if you have any suggestions as a former student athlete or as a student athlete. And please follow me on our socials, College Sucks JA on TikTok and on Instagram. And of course, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcast and on YouTube. So thank you for joining in. Until next week. Bye.